South Africa's retail market has been described as burdened with the impact of high inflation, low economic growth and persistent power cuts. Industry role players say these dynamics have exacerbated an already wide divide between different income groups as well as the population. Retail lead at GFK, Nikki Quinn, speaks to us about this. Thank you so much for your time, Nikki. First of all, I think let's paint a picture of where the South African consumer sits in relation to the high cost of living.
Yeah, so it really is a difficult situation in the country as we hear on a continuous basis. We've got this low economic growth, high inflation, load shedding. Things are pretty tough out there. And I think it really is important for brands and retailers to craft their different strategies to understand that not everybody is the same and one size doesn't fit all across the retail trade. I think just like all of our global counterparts, South African consumers really are expecting good experiences across both the offline and online digital space and the retail space. But I think it's important to understand that their levels of maturity and their appetites across those different segments are very different, impacted even more so by the country's economic challenges.
And that's an interesting dynamic where we've seen a shift since COVID-19 when it comes to the digitization of the retail space. Not every South African can afford to jump on that bandwagon solely because there are challenges when it comes to fiber, data costs and the likes. What's to be said about that divide widening?
Absolutely, that divide is significant. And in terms of digital, although COVID did have an impact and increase our online purchasing, the level of online purchasing is really got a long way to go to get anywhere near more developed markets. We're probably, across the entire African continent, we're probably looking at only about between 7 and 10% of sales going through the online market. So it is significantly different. And it's important to understand that, you know, there are quite a lot of best practices that we can put into play. And it is important for retailers and brands to start off with segmenting their markets really well.
With that said, how much of this market that is online and seemingly growing at a very slow pace feeding into the broader retail space of South Africa?
So in terms of online, it's different across, obviously, the bottom and top ends of the market. On the one hand, we've got consumers who are largely not impacted by a lot of these economic challenges, the very upper echelons of society. And the online growth there is significant, right? Whereas in the bottom end, where people are struggling to make ends meet, coping with those food increases, fuel increases, high levels of unemployment, they're having to tighten their belts pretty significantly. On the one end, we'll have people struggling to make ends meet to buy basic food and groceries. And on the other end, we're still seeing growth coming through in categories like laptops, routers, and things that will enable people to work at home more efficiently.
On that note, what is needed for the South African market to get to a faster pace of growth in that regard? Yes, the work from home has become a thing, but at the same time, not everybody can do that.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a general economic situation at the moment in terms of across the globe. Everybody is struggling somewhat. I think that there are a lot of strategies. There are a lot of players in the South African market. We're seeing more and more players coming into the market to develop that online space in terms of online retail. More and more people doing online banking, more and more people booking things online. So I think that providing the opportunity to our consumers is happening, and it's up to South African business to do that.
Is there an anticipation, though, with better economic growth, the decrease marginally so at this point where inflation is concerned, and the hope that interest rates will go down at some point in this economy will bolster that type of growth that is needed?
I do so. Yes, so that's out.
Thank you so much for your time. Nikki Quinn is the retail lead at GFK, talking to us there about the retail climate in South Africa, given that we will be getting the latest in terms of consumer price inflation figures from Stats SA later today.